Yes, people, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Pit Stop Lounge. This is episode number 30, our second episode of the second season of the Pit Stop Lounge, the podcast about Formula One, what happens on the racetrack, at the paddock, or outside of it. Now, guys, as you can see or hear, if you listen to this on Spotify, today is going to be just myself. Malcolm is not going to be able to join me for this episode. He is currently taking some time off, both socially and also personally. He's perfectly fine, just so that you know. But I think, guys, obviously it's important that once in a while we do need to take some mental health breaks. Mental health is obviously first, and it's first priority for everyone, not just specifically talking about just Malcolm, but for everyone else. So we wish Malcolm all the best, and hopefully he'll be able to join me for the next episode. But we've got a race to talk about. We've got a lot of things to talk about, not just Melbourne. But before we begin, make sure to hit us with a like, follow, and share on our socials, guys, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, especially if this is your first time listening to this podcast. And for our listeners, Spotify, make sure that's a rating. Let us know your thoughts on the polls we publish on each episode. You know the gist, guys. And with that, let's get into today's episode. First of all, hope you're having a good start to the week, guys, and hope you've had a great St. Patrick's, because by the time this episode will be out, St. Patrick's will be over. St. Patrick's, specifically in Malta, is pretty much like a holiday at this point. It's just a good excuse to take some alcoholic drinks and beers. And it's one of the biggest days to celebrate in Malta. It's also obviously it's the main festival in Ireland as well. So hope you've had a fantastic day to everyone, guys. With regards to myself, I'm great. Last week was a pretty tough one because I had a really nasty gastric flu. I pretty much got it from hiking around in Gozo, pretty much. So I ended up with it for almost the entire week. And originally, guys, we were gonna be releasing our predictions episode early last week, but since I had my gastric flu, I was unable to do the episode. I was really sick for most of the week, but thankfully now I'm all good. The gastric is all gone now, and I'm up and ready to talk about to talk about Formula One, and also to talk about the season opener, because Formula One is back, guys. We've had Melbourne this week. We have obviously that race to talk about. But before we get into that, we have some news to talk about off the track, because there's been a couple of interesting news off the track. Most of it is quite unsurprising, to be completely honest, but then there are others that they were pretty significant. So we're going to start with a couple of extension announcements. The first being Oscar Piastri. He was originally going to be staying with McLaren until 2026, but now that is all gone because he has now signed a multi-year contract, which will keep him at McLaren for many more years to come. And this was perfect timing because obviously Melbourne is his home track. To give you my thoughts, not a surprise really. This was absolutely a no-brainer. Just as Oscar said, this was a no-brainer pretty much. I think it was obviously key to keep Oscar in the team alongside Lando. This is the perfect time, obviously, to keep these two drivers in our project. We're just obviously fresh home winning our constructors' crown and aiming to defend it for the season. And I think it was beneficial to keep Oscar in the team. Great news that he fantastic news that he is still that he has signed his contract, no brainer, and obviously hoping for many more years of success for Oscar. So that's that. The second is Stefano Domenicali, the president and CEO of the sport. He has also extended his agreement with Liberty Media in a 5-year contract, which will make him lead the business until at least 2029. Yeah, I think a lot of people have their thoughts on the FIA and even him specifically and for Stefano Domenicali, but I think this again, just like Oscar Piastri, a no-brainer. I think thanks to him, the sport is gaining a lot of fans, not just obviously from the Netflix show, but also around the world. The fact that the reach that the sport is getting, I think it's never been this high, to be completely honest. So I think it was I think this was obviously instrumental. For I think Stefano Domenicali has been instrumental in driving the entire sport to bigger, new and even newer levels of success to bring what Formula One it is today. And and obviously thanks to him, the demand has increased, the interest of the sport has also increased. So yeah, again, not really a surprise that he has extended his contract. So that will obviously keep him there until 2029 at the latest. And the final piece of news is concerning Sauber, and that is Jonathan Wheatley, who is obviously was announced as the new team principal of Sauber. We had no clue when he was going to be starting his when he will be starting his work at Sauber, but now we finally have a date, and it is April 1st, which that means that the Japanese Grand Prix in Suzuka is where he's going to be making his debut. Now, if this is an early April Fool's joke, it's there to be. We have to wait and see, but it doesn't look like it's going to be an early April Fool's joke, guys. So that means that Jonathan Wheatley now is going to be starting his role as team principal with Sauber on April 1st. So Sauber fans, you don't have a lot of weeks to wait now, because it's basically just around the corner now, April 1st, because March we're pretty much approaching the second half of March now. So that is obviously great news for Sauber. I think, I mean, as me and Malcolm said last time round, Sauber are currently going through a transitional period at the moment. They have two new drivers at the helm. They have obviously Matteo Binotto joined last season, so he's also new to the team, and now they have a new team principal coming in. So that obviously is going to prepare them not just for this season, but also for 2026 when they make the switch to Audi. So I think Sauber have a key asset in their hands with Jonathan Wheatley. Obviously, he was obviously the sporting director of Red Bull for many years. He was instrumental in Red Bull's success alongside Adrian Newey and Christian Horner, obviously. But yeah, this is key. This is crucial news for Sauber. And yeah, I think Jonathan Wheatley is gonna get there. Is gonna start work there very quickly now. So fantastic news, and this is obviously gonna be a boost of confidence for Sauber. All right, with that out of the way, guys, I think it's best to start with the predictions before we get into Melbourne, guys. Now, obviously, guys, we were gonna be dedicating an entire episode with our predictions. Malcolm's obviously is not going to join me for this one, so he will discuss his predictions in the next episode. So what we're gonna do, what I will be doing is that I will be mentioning my predictions. I'm gonna rush through them a little bit. We're gonna start with from the bottom of the grid. I'm gonna be working my way all the way to the top, and then I'm gonna be revealing who will be winning the world title, the world championship by the end of the season. So with that, we'll start with 10th place, and 10th place for me is going to be a bit of a hot take because I obviously gave this team no chance last season. I'm probably gonna be a bit harsh with them. Gonna be a little bit harsh with them here as well, and that is Haas. Now Haas surprised me last season. I put them at the bottom of the grid. They did actually finish in 7th place, which is a pretty decent result for them considering that they had a new team principal at the time with Ayo Kamatsu at the helm. But obviously, a large part of it was not just him, but also with the drivers that they had at their disposal. They had Nico Hulkenberg, who's Mr. Qualifying, who's Mr. Qualifying. They also had some decent results with the team alongside Kevin Magnussen, but unfortunately, those two drivers are no longer there. Hulkenberg has joined Sauber, while Kevin Magnussen is out of the sport completely. And instead, they have two completely new drivers. They have Esteban Ocon and Oliver Behrman, who's one of the many rookies of this Formula One season. So for that, I think Haas are going to have a tougher season at the helm. I think this is going to be a second season syndrome for Ayo Kamatsu's team. And even after Melbourne, the car just looks way off the pace completely. I mean, obviously they had some terrible luck, not just with Melbourne, but also pre-season in pre-season testing. So I just don't have a great feeling for Haas this season, and I think the only team that can be probably a little bit worse is Sauber, which is spoiler going to be my second, which is going to be the team that I'm going to be putting in ninth place. So yeah, I have a bad feeling about Haas this season. Unfortunately, listen, they might prove me wrong as they did last season. I hope that will be the case. So, but unfortunately, yeah, I don't have a lot of hope for Haas this season. So for that, I'm going to be putting them at the bottom of the grid in 10th place. Following up in ninth place is Sauber. Now, I was originally going to be putting Sauber at the back of the grid, but after this weekend, I'm going to have to change a little bit my predictions here, guys, because yeah, obviously has had the terrible luck, but with Sauber, they have Nico Hulkenberg now. They not only they have Nico Hulkenberg, they also have Gabriel Bortoletto there, who is obviously the reigning Formula Two champion. So they have a quality duo lineup of drivers there with Hulkenberg and Bortoletto there. But as myself and Malcolm said, they are at the moment going through a transitional period. Obviously, like last season, obviously their focus is on 2026. So I think with the season, again, I'm not gonna be. I mean, I'm not gonna be a too harsh on Sauber because I think their transitional aspects is are there to be seen because obviously they're putting all their focus on they're putting a lot of focus on the Audi project. It's there to be seen. But I think if they get some decent results in if they make the effort in qualifying and in the races, maybe just to get into the latter end of the top 10 or even towards the early bottom half of the top 10, I think that would be a success for them. But I think right now at this point for Sauber, it's just making those crucial appointments. They've obviously got Binotto, Jota Weekly now, as I said, who's going to start his role as deputy principal very, very soon at this point. But looking at the other teams, I don't really think Sauber really stand a chance alongside Alpine and Williams and even like the other teams and the other stronger teams at the helm. So for that, I'm going to put Sauber in ninth place. I don't think they're going to finish at the bottom of the grid, but it's close. I mean, that's why I'm going to putting them in ninth. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Eighth place, I was going a little bit back and forth with the likes of maybe Alpine and Racing Bulls and Williams and maybe even Aston Martin. But for eighth, and yeah, this might be close. I'm gonna have to go with Racing Bulls. And yeah, with Racing Bulls, disappointing last season. I think I a little bit better from Red Bull's sister team. They they've kept Yuki Tsunoda, which for me, I still believe that Yuki Tsunoda should have joined Red Bull instead of Liam Lawson, but that obviously is a discussion for another day. They have Isaac Hajar now at the helm, again one of the rookies alongside Gabriel Bortoletto. So they have an interesting lineup of drivers there at the helm. But I think they're gonna rely a little bit on Yuki this season. I think now with his experience at the team he has, I think he can acquire that leadership role with the Racing Bulls team. But again, I'm looking at the teams above them. They don't. I don't have a lot of optimism for them. I think with Isaac Hajar, he's a rookie. I can't. You can't really. I can't really. He needs time to get used to the sport because obviously Formula One is a completely different beast to Formula Two. So I think he needs the time to adapt and gel into the sport. They do have a great livery, as we said in the last episode. So I think the car at least is going to look pretty on the track. But I think I think I might change the predictions towards the latter stages of the season. But as of right now, and as of how winter testing has gone for Racing Bulls, I'm gonna have to put them in eighth place, which is a shame because I really expect them to get a little bit higher in the standings. But I think that's the most I think I can put Racing Bulls at the helm. So for that, I'm going to put them in eighth place. In seventh place, this again, things are going to get interesting here because I think things are going to get a little bit tricky here to see where I'm going to be predicting most most of the teams here. In seventh, again, I think I'm probably gonna get this. I'm probably gonna get this either right or spectacularly wrong. Williams and Williams now. Williams had a poor season last year. They had to make a driver replacement towards the latter stages of the season, just like Racing was with Logan Sargent going out of the door, and Franco Lapinto replacing him. But now, even Franco is now the reserve driver for Alpine, and in his place now is Carlos Sainz. And him and Alex Albon is an exciting lineup. Is an exciting lineup, and for me, unlike the likes of Ferrari and even my team McLaren, I think Williams is the team I'm looking forward to seeing the most this season. I think they have two fantastic drivers in the team, but for Williams, it all depends on how the car is going to perform because it's useless of having two drivers there, but the car doesn't perform. So I think James Vowles is gonna be a little bit under more pressure this season, unlike his first two seasons. This is now his third season. Last year was a setback for him. They struggled throughout most of the season, but I think this season is gonna be a bit of a surge in form for Williams. I think it's expected because they have not just Alex Albon, but also they have Carlos Sainz now at the team. So I think I'm expecting a little bit of an improvement for Williams this season, but I think it all depends on how the car is going to be performing. Because at the moment at the early signs, it's showing that it is improving with regards to practice and even just after Melbourne as well. Specifically, Alex Albon had a fantastic weekend. But the early signs are showing that Williams have a decent car this season. But at the moment, I'm putting them in seventh because it's still very early on. We still have to see the full picture of this entire season, not just with Williams, but the entire. So for that, I'm going to be putting them in seventh. I might get this prediction wrong by the end of the season, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. In sixth, just sixth, I'm gonna go with Alpine. Alpine had a strong end to the season after having a very difficult first half of the season. Alpine last season they had an entire year filled with setbacks, multiple changes up top with the logistics and the management of the team. They got Flavio Briatore back at the team, but they ended the season very, very strongly. It's all thanks to Pierre Gasly steering the team to a strong sixth place finish on what seemed to be for the entire team to be finishing at the back of the grid. Esteban Ocon is no longer there. In his place is Jack Doohan alongside who joins the rookie lineup alongside Isaac Hadjar, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Oliver Behrman. There's also Kimi Antonelli there, which I'll be talking about very, very soon. So I think for Alpine, their focus is not repeating the same mistakes as last season to start how they ended last season at this point. So with that, I'm gonna be putting them in sixth place. They're gonna be facing competition with Aston Martin and Williams because that's gonna be. I think that's gonna be their focus for this entire season is to get the best. Is to be the best over those mentioned teams. So for that, I'll be placing them in sixth place. Pierre Gasly obviously has to take the leadership role because Jack Doohan is a rookie. I think with Jack Doohan, he needs, obviously, he will be a little bit under pressure, but at the same time, the lad needs to give some space. He needs to have he needs the time, just the time to adapt to the sport, just like Isaac Hadjar. But with Flavio Briatore there, he's not going to be taking any bullshit. Obviously, with that clip for Drive to Survive, it's evident that he won't tolerate any unnecessary any bad performances under him. So I think he needs to he needs to adapt a bit quickly, but at the same time, I think he needs to adapt as well properly into the sport. So for that, I'm going to put him in sixth place. In fifth. And this is for me. I was actually going to be putting Williams in fifth place, but I think it's a bit still early on in the season. So for that, I'll be putting Aston Martin in fifth place. Now, Aston Martin, they've kept Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. Alonso, I think he's approaching the end of his time in Formula One. Now, at this point, I think at this point he's going to be seeing out his contract because he obviously signed his new contract last season. Lance Stroll obviously still there because of his father managing the team, so not a surprise he's still there. Now Aston Martin did finish in the top five, but in their based on their standards, it was a disappointing season for them. They were a little bit off the pace compared to their rivals of the track. They were fine. They mostly found themselves outside at the bottom end of the top 10, or even outside the top 10. They had several races where they weren't even getting themselves into the points. So they need to improve on last season. But I think they have some exciting things to look forward to. They have a lot of exciting things to look forward to, because they have obviously now they have Adrian Newey there at the team, who has already started work this month. And just like a little bit similar to Sauber, they are putting a bit of focus on 2026, because they will be switching to Honda engines. This is going to be their final season under the Mercedes engine supplier. So I think they're going to be focusing on the season, but I think they're going to set their eyes a little bit on 2026. So what I expect for the season for Aston Martin is that improving on their results last season. I think they really want to to be a little bit more to be more in the top 10 consistently. I think outside top 10 is not where a team wants to be at the moment. I think with Fernando Alonso, he wants to make the best out of his remaining time there at the sport. So with that, I'm going to be putting them in fifth place. Again, this might turn out to be the complete opposite at the end of the season, but for now, since we're still very very early on, I'm going to be putting them in fifth place. In fourth, I'm going with Mercedes. Hamilton is now gone. In his space is Kimi Antonelli, one of the most exciting drivers, one of the most promising drivers of the sport at the moment. I mean, if Toto Wolff has really rated the youngster, there's a reason why he's highly rated. And I think with Mercedes, again, last season, a little bit unacceptable for their standards. There were many races where they struggled on pace and on performance compared to Ferrari, Red Bull, and even McLaren. So I think, again, just like this season, I think every team wants to improve, obviously, on the season. But I think with Mercedes, now that Hamilton is gone, I think George Russell takes leadership understandably takes leadership of the team now ahead of Lewis. But at the same time, I think Mercedes have plenty of things to look forward to as well. With Toto Wolff's team, they have obviously a decent livery, and yeah, I think they expect to improve a little bit on last season. I think they're gonna try to push themselves a little bit into the top three places. So let's hope obviously they don't find themselves a little bit way off the top three, because I think with those drivers, specifically Antonelli, because of his talent and his potential, I think I think Mercedes' objective this season is to get into those top three places. But for now, since the three teams behind them have a little bit of the upper edge, I'm going to be putting them in fourth place. Um, as for the drivers, with George Russell, I think there will be more pressure for him, since he is now since he is now the leader of the team, who has taken the role ahead of Hamilton. I would Antonelli. Yes, he's a rookie, but he is going to be under more pressure than those rookies, because obviously he is in a Mercedes. I mean, at 17 years of age, you don't find yourself in a Mercedes. So this is obviously an unbelievable opportunity for him to show his talent. So he will be under more pressure than those youngsters. But I'm expecting the best. I'm expecting some better things for Mercedes this season compared to that. So for that, we put them in fourth place. And the top three, in third is going to be Red Bull, in second is Ferrari, and in first is McLaren, just like last season. Starting with Red Bull, I think Red Bull are going to have a tougher season than last year. They've lost a lot of key personnel up top, Adrian Newey and Jonathan Wheatley, as I said. Sergio Perez is now gone. In his space is Liam Lawson. Still, I'm baffled by that decision. I think Yuki Tsunoda should have been in that seat instead of Liam Lawson, but who knows? I mean that change might happen halfway through the season if Lawson completely underperforms in the second Red Bull seat, because really at this point that second seat is really cursed for Red Bull. And I think all eyes are going to be on Max Verstappen as well. I think he's going to be carrying the team even more than last season. I think the cars is not going to be as strong as last season because I think Ferrari and McLaren have at the early stages they have looked like they have gone up and a notch with their performance. Not really like Ferrari because Ferrari had a poor weekend at Melbourne this weekend. But I think with Red Bull, I'm putting them in third place because they lost that key personnel, but at the same time, they still have Max. They still have a fourth. They still have the reigning world champion. He's now a four-time world champion at the helm. So I think all hope lies on the Dutch driver basically at this point. So for that, I'm going to be putting Red Bull in third place. Ferrari in second. Now, Ferrari obviously is the team that everyone is excited about this season. They have the eight-time world champion as Lewis Hamilton at the team instead of Carlos Sainz and Charles, and obviously there's obviously Charles Leclerc there as now the second driver of the team. And I mean, obviously, as I said, this is the team that is going to be on everyone's radar this season. I mean, and I think it's expected that they will challenge McLaren for for that constructors title, and they have to show it from next weekend as well because because we're going to get to Melbourne very very quickly. They've had a really poor weekend by their standards, so all eyes are going to be on them this season. Specifically, Hamilton. He's joined the team to get that eighth world championship title, so it's not coincidence that he's joined them at such a late stage in his career. At such a late stage in his career, I mean, let's not forget this guy is 40 years old. I mean, at that time, most drivers either retire from the sport or else find themselves in the bottom half team. But that's not the case with Hamilton. That shows his hunger, his elite mentality to get him his eighth world championship crown. And I think with Ferrari this with the season last season it was a fantastic season from their standards. They started the season not where they want to be, but they had a strong end to the season. And it looked like they were going to be in strong contention for that constructors title, but it was too little, too late for them. And with Ferrari again, I think they can't repeat. They have to be on their A game for during every weekend. They can't find themselves outside the top three and even the top five because they want me. I expect them to provide a challenge for McLaren for the constructors title, but at the same time they still lack a little bit in performance and durability with the car. So for that, I'm going to be putting them in second place. With McLaren, I think I'm expecting an even better season for not just the entire team, but also for both drivers. And for me, this is Lando Norris's year. It looks, I mean, from Melbourne, after Melbourne, it looks like this is going to be a season. The car looks incredible right from the offset. It looks, I mean, just on the lap times, and from the lap times from the preseason testing, it looks like it's the best of the bunch by a long mile. I don't want to obviously overcommit because we're still at the start of the season, so a lot of things can change towards the course of the season. However, the car looks ridiculously fast and superior among everyone else. So I think this is going to be our year. And I think this is going to be Lando's year as well. So that's why I'm going to put not just going to be putting McLaren at the top of the constructors standings, but I'm also going to be putting Lando Norris as the man to get his first world championship title. In the top three, I'm going to be putting Lando Norris in first, as I said. I think Verstappen second, Leclerc third. I think Leclerc third, just like last season. All right, guys. So that is my predictions. Let us know your predictions for this upcoming season. And this is also the perfect time to tell you that if this is your first time listening to this podcast, make sure to follow us on our socials: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify for our listeners. And with that, let's get into the main meat of this episode, which is the Melbourne Grand Prix, the season opener of this Formula One season. And this is one of the most anticipated seasons of all time, guys. I mean, specifically with the drivers that are in the teams, the whoever also is fighting for the championship crown for this season. Obviously, Hamilton's move to Ferrari, what the biggest, probably the biggest move of the entire sport. The new fans that have arrived at the sport, that have gone around the world, and even just the races in general. I mean, it's gonna be a very long season. It's going to be a very exciting season. I think we needed a race to show. We needed an eventful race to show that it is going to be an exciting season. And Melbourne did not disappoint one bit. This was absolute chaos, absolute and absolute joy throughout the entire weekend, from practice, qualifying, and even the race. Now, for both qualifying and the race, guys, I had to watch them on demand later on in the day because the race specifically was at 5 in the morning in Malta, which was ridiculously early. So luckily, I had to watch it on demand afterwards. So I had to pretty much watch the entire highlights afterwards. Probably end up getting spoiled because I knew straight away who won the race and who was out of the race as well. But with that, we're gonna get into the main format as we did last season, guys. Especially if this is your first time listening to this podcast, what we normally do is we start with qualifying, and then we talk about the race, and then we give our driver of the day, our awards: driver of the day, loser of the day, the dick of the day, the clown of the day, and even just a highlight moment of the day as well, guys. So that's gonna be our format for today's episode. All right, we'll start with qualifying and we'll lead up with the race now. Excited about now. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to start with who got knocked out with Q1, and we're gonna work our way. We're gonna work all the way up to the top of the standings. Now, as I said with Haas, the reason why I've put them in 10th place, guys, is because it looks like it's going to be a very, very difficult season for them. And unfortunately for Haas, they just had no luck at all from pre-season testing, and that continued all the way to practice and qualifying. Oliver Behrman specifically, I mean, just had no the dude just couldn't catch a break throughout the entire weekend. It all started in practice, where he caused the first red flag of the season, pretty much obliterating his Haas. And in qualifying, just just in the first corners, he reported a gearbox issue in his car, and he was forced to pretty much retire the car at the very start of qualifying. So it was a disastrous. I mean, for Haas in general, it was just a disastrous start to their season because it's not only Oliver Behrman not pretty much not even setting a lap time throughout qualifying, but end up at the back of the grid because also Esteban Ocon, his teammate, finishing above him in 19th with the slowest lap time of 1:19. Oh, sorry, about 1 minute 17.147 seconds. So really, really unfortunate for Haas, specifically Oliver Behrman. I mean, talk about a baptism of fire in every way, and this is going to be like the name of this episode, guys, because it's not just him. The rookies in general had a tough start to their Formula One careers, guys, with the exception of one driver. Obviously Oliver Behrman being the one that suffered the most as well. Another driver that also had a really poor qualifying session, guys, was Liam Lawson, the second Red Bull driver. He went off towards the last corner of his flying lap. And basically, his lap time got deleted as a result of that. And at the time, Liam Lawson was in 18th place, and that's where he pretty much had to start the race. So again, just like Oliver Behrman, guys, this disastrous start for Liam Lawson. I mean, we all know Red Bull are very, very harsh with how they tackle decisions with their drivers, and with the case of Liam Lawson, that is not the way to start your career as a Red Bull driver. There, so 18th place for Liam Lawson is a terrible qualifying performance for him, but hopefully he'll be hoping for better things than last Saturday, basically. Nico Hulkenberg in 17th. Again, the good news, no, not the good news. I was meant to say, but again, that Sauber is one of the slowest cars on the grid, so I'm not really much of a surprise that it's there in 17th. But at the same time, with Nico Hulkenberg, given his CV in qualifying, I think he expects much 17th place. Kimi Antonelli in 16th place. Now, originally he was the 10th fastest, but unfortunately, many drivers got a better lap time ahead of him, specifically the Alpines, and he was pipped by another rookie, Gabriel Bortoletto, who just managed to squeeze past Q2. So again, for Antonelli, poor for him, but at the same time, again, he's still a rookie. So again, he expects a little bit of a better performance than what happened in Q1. So unlucky for him, but at least the race was a completely different story for the Italian starter. So yeah, 16th place disappointing for Kimi Antonelli. Um, in 15th, Gabriel Bortoletto, just how he ended in Q1. I mean, for his debut, that is a decent result for him, considering that he's driving a Sauber as well. So at least that is a good start for Bortoletto, to make your mark to make your mark in the sport with a Sauber. I mean, he's a Formula Two champion for a reason, so he showed his talent with that performance basically. Um, Jacques Doohan in 14th with the Alpine. Again, not gonna go a bit too harsh on Doohan. At least he didn't ended up in those Q1 spots. So to make your debut on home soil, to finish at the bottom, at pretty much in mid grid, is something that Jack can be satisfied about at the very least. We did see just before we get to 13th place, we did. Hamilton had spun in one of the in turn 11, which caused a brief yellow flag in the session. So that pretty much compromised some of the lap times of certain drivers, specifically the two Aston Martins, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll, in 13th and 12th place respectively. As I said, guys, I think Aston Martin does, they need to have like a better, they need to see better things from last season, and that wasn't the way to start your season. So disappointing for the Aston Martins. Isaac Hajar in 11th, very unlucky that he missed out getting himself into Q3 by just a couple of seconds. But again, just like Jack Doohan and Gabriel Bortoletto for your debut, it's a decent result. The top 10, Carlos Sainz in 10th with the Williams. As I said, guys, with that Williams looks very promising for the season, and and Carlos Sainz basically showed exactly why. 10th place with the Williams, a very good result for him. Seabait performed even better, which we're gonna be mentioning very soon, basically. Pierre Gasly in ninth, a good push for him to get himself into the top 10 places. I mean, this is basically how he ended last season with that purple patch form at the end of the season. So a ninth place for Pierre Gasly is a good way to start his qualifying performances this season. Lewis Hamilton in eighth and Charles Leclerc in seventh. For Ferrari standards, that is not the way to start your season. In qualifying, I mean, with Ferrari, they expect to find themselves in the top 5 places, maybe in the second row of the grid. So to be consistently slower than your rivals, and to be outperformed by a Williams and a Racing Bulls is pretty embarrassing stuff for Ferrari, to be honest. And with speaking of being outperformed, Alex Albon in sixth and Yuki Tsunoda in fifth. That's a fantastic effort for both drivers. To outperform both Ferraris is already an achievement in itself, guys. So fantastic result for themselves in the top 6 places, specifically specifically with the cars that they are driving pretty much. So fantastic. Let's hope that's not a one-off. And with regards to how their season has started, that is the perfect way to start your season. The top 4, not really much of a surprise. George Russell in 4 with the Mercedes. Again, outperform, as I said, those Ferraris, and to find himself in the top 4 places for George Russell, again, to acquire to have that leadership role for this entire to have his new leadership role for the season is a very good result for him. Max Verstappen in third. Again, I think he on another day he could have got that pole position. But I think the early signs are showing straight away that he is going to be carrying the entire Red Bull team this season, and his talent has showed it there. That compared to practice, third place is is a significant improvement to how that car performed in qualifying. The top two are the McLarens, Oscar Piastri in second and Lando Norris in pole position. This is the perfect way to start our title defense this season. For the constructors for our constructors championship, guys. So I am very thrilled that that McLaren is at the top of the grid. It's easily the best car on the grid, and we've showed why we're the best car on the grid throughout the entire weekend, pretty much from practice all the way to the race as well, which we're gonna get into straight away now. Obviously, I wanted Oscar Piastri to get a pole position because he's at home soil, but at the same time, I'm still very happy for Lando to get that pole position. I think this is going to be a very big season for him. And obviously, he's going to be. I'm expecting him to grow further within his role for this entire season. So very happy. Even though I wanted Oscar Piastri to get the win. And now we get into the race. Now, obviously, guys, Melbourne is a chaotic. It is a chaotic Grand Prix. This weekend was no exception at all, and it showed it right from not just the start, but the formation lap. Because Isaac Hajar pretty much crashed his car at the first corner of the formation lap. I mean, talk about a brutal introduction to the sport. I mean, he was visibly upset. Not just visibly upset, he was in tears. And he had to be consoled by Anthony Hamilton, who's Lewis Hamilton's father. I mean, I can't really blame him, to be honest. And I also give the guy some space, man. I mean, he looked very emotional, and he needed some time to reflect on pretty much what happened. I mean, that is really not the way to start your Formula One career, but basically to just crash your car at the first corner of the race. Now, obviously, the rain made a difference because it was pretty much raining throughout most of the race, specifically in the formation lap. But obviously the rain had a bigger role towards the latter stages of the race, which I'm going to be mentioning very soon about that. So yeah, very. I feel very sorry for Isaac Hajar, to be honest, because that is not a way to start your Formula One career. Basically, just to basically crash your car into the wall. So very unlucky for him, and let's hope that that for China this Sunday, it's the complete opposite for him. So very unlucky for him to be crashing the car. Now the start was also chaotic, guys. Not just from the first corner, not just from the first couple of corners, because the McLarens got the better edge out of everyone else apart from turn one. However, Max Verstappen edged past Oscar Piastri in the first couple of corners. However, that was a little bit short-lived because Jack Doohan, another rookie, crashed the rear wing of his car, and basically the safety car was out on the first lap. Not only him, but also Carlos Sainz ended up hitting the deck and getting pretty much getting knocked out from the race. So, I mean, talk about a baptism of fire from the rookies and even Carlos Sainz. I mean, both drivers. That's pretty much the worst. That's like the most disaster. That's like the worst start to make your mark in your brand new teams. I mean, and that pretty much shows what the rain making a big difference throughout the track. It's not just this track, but also like the entire tracks of the entire calendar. Um, we did see a couple of overtakes after the restart, specifically on lap 8. Max was gaining a little bit of ground on Norris, who was leading the race, who was pretty much leading the entire race. On lap 14, we did see Kimi Antonelli making a move on one of the Saubers. I believe that was Gabriel Bortoletto. And for Kimi Antonelli, that was the start of a fantastic weekend for him. I mean, obviously he started at the back of the grid. He did, however, had a spin on lap 13 during one of the turns, which resulted in him losing a little bit of ground. However, I mean that was a bit of a rookie mistake for him to make that turn. So for that so just for that he gets a pass for this one because it's his first ever race and in difficult circumstances as well. On lap 17, Oscar Piastri did make a move, did edge past Max Verstappen because Max ended up going straight off straight off the turn in one of the turns. Basically, that's a result of the rain and of his intermediate tires in that turn. And then from then, the race went a little bit quiet, but then, with the exception of lap 30, with the top two drivers being Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, making pretty much going head to head during those portions. And the McLarens, as I said, we were the fastest car on the grid. I mean, we were pretty much like 18 seconds ahead of Verstappen, who was in third place. And it was the quickest car on the grid. So I think the race was decided pretty much on the conditions of the track, and the track was difficult. It was a short to drive through, guys. I mean, specifically with the rain, and that showed pretty much on that 34 with Fernando Alonso also hitting the deck and getting out and pretty much finding and getting knocked out from the race, causing another safety car, and some of the drivers making their necessary pit stops in that lap time. The McLaren followed suit with that one, with both drivers making a pit stop each, alongside also obviously Max Verstappen making also a pit stop. And the race again got going from lap 40 onwards, which looked pretty much untroubled. However, torrential rain, more like, was coming towards the next 5 laps, and the rain finally arrived on lap 44, where the both McLarens went off the track, specifically Oscar Piastri as well, being the unluckiest one of the bunch, as he was pretty much stuck on the grass and he ended up pretty much at the back of the grid because of the rain. So got it for him. Super unlucky. I think it was pretty much not his fault because the rain compromised the entire race as a result of this weekend. So very, very unlucky for Oscar Piastri getting knocked out, getting pretty much from the race because of his error. Not pretty much knocked out from this race, rather than because of the rain, getting himself knocked out from the track. So that pretty much put Max leading the race, but pretty much chaos ensued with that rain shower because everyone had to make a pit stop. The McLarens had to make a pit stop, obviously, with making the switch to intermediate tires. The Ferraris also had to make a pit stop. The Ferraris, on the contrary, they stayed out. They stayed out with the hard compound tires, and that decision proved to backfire significantly because the safety car then was out. What was again out. Max made the pit stop at the perfect time because on lap 46, the McLarens obviously made their pit stop beforehand because of their spin in that section, and that also resulted also in both Gabriel Bortoletto and Liam Lawson hitting the deck just like the other drivers who got knocked out from the race, and getting themselves knocked out from the race as well, because all thanks to the rain. So that ended up with another safety car, and that proved costly for both Ferraris as well, because then they had to make a pit stop from behind the safety car, basically, which was an error, which was definitely a tactical error for the entire team, and not from their drivers. So that pretty much resulted for them to get the safety car of the race. So for Lando, that proved to be that spin at first deeming to be a terrible basically a decision that deems to backfire at first. It proved out to be the costume at the end of the day. The race restarted on lap 52 with just 5 minutes remaining of the track, remaining of the race. Max did look like he was gonna get past Lando, but it was too little, too late. Lando ended up winning the race, and Deservedly so. I think Lando dominated the entire weekend, not just this race, and despite having everything go against him with regards to the rain, his pit stop strategies, and everything else between him. The guy was calm, he was composed, and most importantly, the guy was mature, and that was something that I wanted to see for Lando this season, because last season he lacked that maturity from his performances, and from this race, the first signs are showing that Lando is looking that he has it's looking like he has grown considerably this season. So a well deserved victory for him. He also got the fastest lap of the race as well. So he completely dominated this entire race up at 44. I feel really sorry for Oscar Piastri for not getting in those races, but however, he ended up still getting a ninth place despite being at the back of the grid on lap 52 with just 5 minutes remaining of the race. And that shows just how quick those drivers are, and it also shows just how quick that McLaren is at the moment, guys. So I'm very, very thrilled. I'm over the moon that we are at the top of our game at the moment, and let's hope it's more of the same come China this week. I think hopefully is the start of a new dominant era in the sport, but we'll all have to wait and see for that. So a very well deserved win for Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri getting ninth place, unlucky for him, but at least he got a few points in the back for him. Max finishing in second place, considering his practice performances, that is a great result for him and Red Bull, and even considering that Liam Lawson also got out of the race, fantastic result for him for him and Red Bull. So expecting more of the same come China. The two Mercedes, George Russell in third and Kimi Antonelli in fourth, with George Russell one up from his qualifying performance. So a podium spot is exactly how he'd love to start his leadership role this season at Mercedes. So a great podium result for him for George Russell. Kimi Antonelli in fourth place. I mean, for me, he's right. For me, I know Lando. I think I know this. I know Lando. Lando had a fantastic race. He dominated the entire weekend, and he is the driver of the day for many people. But for me, Kimi Antonelli is my driver of the day. Man, this is his debut. This is his debut. This is his full F1 debut, and not only it's his full F1 debut. Um, he had a very difficult race under difficult circumstances in the rain. He had a couple of spins. He endured a spin in early on in the race, and the guy just showed his elite talent with that race. He initially had a 5 second time penalty for an unsafe release, which put him in fifth place, but that penalty was reinstated and he got that fourth place again. Fantastic performance for him, and this was no fluke. I mean, this was for him. This was not a fluke that he ended up in fourth place, but he showed it with his talent. And listen, at first, I had my doubts that he would struggle in that Mercedes right from the bat. But Toto Wolff, I think this guy knows what he's doing. Right? And when he is gushing about this guy and he is confident that he's placing him there at the Red Bull seat, no, not the Red Bull seat, sorry, at the Mercedes seat. It shows there's a reason why there's a reason why he's in that Mercedes team. So a fantastic result for him, and for me, he's my driver of the day, 100%. I mean, that as debuts go, it's as perfect as you can get, pretty much. It's not the best debut of all time, but it's an excellent debut for him. Equally excellent as well is Alex Albin in the Williams guys, fifth place. Again, if Carlos Sainz didn't go, he would also end up getting himself in those top 10 spots. So again, for Williams, that's the best way to start this season compared to last season. And listen, with the way things are going, I think that they're going to be outscoring their points tally last season. So a fantastic result for Alex Albon in fifth. Even Lance Stroll in sixth place. I mean, the guy started in 13th, after his qualifying performance. So a sixth place for him, he'll take that all day long. Yes, there were a couple of retirements throughout the entire race. However, it's a good result for Lance Stroll in sixth place, considering they also let his teammates end up crashing and getting out and getting knocked out from the race. Nico Hulkenberg in seventh. This guy is also going. This guy for me is going under the radar with the Sauber. Sauber ended up in the back of the grid last season, and they've already pretty much outscored their points tally last season. And I'm not surprised that it's Nico Hulkenberg, because the guy is consistently solid, performing at these lower base teams. And again, just like Williams, a seventh place is the best possible way for Hulkenberg to start Sauber season. And also considering that they've outperformed both Ferraris. And for me, Ferrari are the losers of the day. Eighth place and 10th place, with Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. This is a disastrous way to start to start the season, with 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 both those drivers at the helm. So a terrible, terrible performance for Ferrari. And I think for Ferrari fans, they're hoping that they expect better things from that, because their race was compromised when the safety car was out. They should have got their cars before the safety car. It was pretty much a terrible tactical decision for the entire team to put their cars in the pits after the safety car was released. And even for Lewis Hamilton to find himself at 10th place, not a way to start the season there. So pretty much. So that's pretty much it for the top 10. Driver of the day is Lando Norris. Loser of the day is Ferrari. Dick of the day don't really have the dick of the day. The dick of the day, I'm actually gonna give it to the rain pretty much, because it compromised a lot of drivers, specifically the rookies. So I'm gonna give it that. And the clown of the day is Leclerc's water comment, without any doubt for me. That for me takes the crown 100%. All right, guys, that is it. That is the end of this episode. Thank you so much, and thanks for bearing with me, because I'm obviously I was alone for this episode. So thank you so much for listening, guys. Our next episode is in today week, where we'll be talking about the second race of the season. And we're also going to be talking about Drive to Survive, guys, because the new season is out, and we are still need to pretty much watch every single episode of the entire season. So stay tuned for that. And with that, I'm going to sign off and hope you have a good rest of the week. Peace out.